Thank you for choosing DIY granite and quartz for your project. This video will help guide you through your installation. Step 1. Measure for your countertops. To properly measure for countertops, you will need a tape measure and framing square. Check all walls and cabinet ends for square, and then mark accordingly. Next, measure and add for overhangs. Standard countertop overhang is 1 1/4 inches. Maximum unsupported overhang on peninsulas and islands is 12 inches. Mark all finished ends, walls, and cabinets. Also mark where the fridge and stove are located. Next, measure the sink location. Measure from a cabinet or wall end to the center of a sink cabinet when possible. If you have to measure off a finished end, don't forget to add the overhang. If a backsplash is desired, mark the desired height. Remember, countertop thickness is approximately 1 3/16 inches. Step 2. Check clearance for the sink in the cabinet. Place the sink in the cabinet. Make sure there's approximately 2 inches of clearance on both sides of the sink to easily access the sink mounting slots. If less than 2 inches of clearance, cut cabinet accordingly. Step 3. Transporting the pieces of granite or quartz from the trailer to your house. First, remove the bar clamps. If multiple pieces are being used, try to keep one bar clamp secure to prevent the other pieces from tipping while walking in and out of the trailer. Always carry countertop pieces on end. Set onto cabinet on end, then roll flat and slide into place. Avoid lifting any piece over 5 feet long flat, and never lift a piece with the sink cutout flat. We recommend using the hand clamps on pieces over 4 feet in length. For the cart, place the pieces on the cart and tighten clamps firmly. You can use the cart on larger pieces or pieces that need to be transported a long distance. Use the sink saver on pieces that are over 6 feet in length to strengthen during install. Clamp the sink saver firmly on the finished edge of the countertop. Remove it once the countertop is sitting flat on the cabinet. Step 4. Fitting the pieces on the cabinets. Once the pieces are successfully on top of the cabinets, slide into place and adjust overhangs. Step 5. Leveling. Once pieces are in place, use wood shims to level. If there is a seam, take extra care to make sure the two pieces come together flat. Place a 4-foot level across the seam to check. Step 6. Preparing for a seam. Spread the two pieces so that there's an 1/8 inch gap. Familiarize yourself with the use of the seam setter at this point. Once you're comfortable with it, take the epoxy and pump a little out before applying to the seam. This will ensure that it is mixed correctly. Apply an even bead across the whole seam and allow it to sink down. Repeat this process 2 more times. Push the seam together by hand so that some epoxy comes to the top. Remove any excess epoxy. Next, press the seam setter in place. Hold down until full suction is achieved. The suction cups will flatten. Then, use the feet on the seam setter to make your final adjustments to the seam. Slide a razor blade on end across the seam to check for evenness. Finally, tighten the seam with the adjustment knobs on the seam setter. Once tight, allow about 15 minutes for epoxy to cure. Step 7. Finishing the seam. Once the epoxy is fully cured, remove the seam setter by turning it off and lifting on the bottom of the suction cups until they break loose. Then remove excess epoxy by scraping with a razor blade on end. Remove small amounts at a time and switch blades often. Once all the extra epoxy is removed, check to make sure there are no voids or spots where the epoxy might have pulled out. Recoat with epoxy and scrape once cured if necessary. Step 8. Mounting your sink. Test fit the sink to the sink cutout. Ensure all anchor slots are accessible. Lay an even bead of silicone around the entire sink rim. Use the sink mounting tool to hold the sink in place while attaching the supplied anchor bolts and clips. Firmly tighten, but do not over-tighten. Once all clips are tight, remove sink mounting tool and finish centering the sink in the cutout. Step 9 is installing your backsplash. Test fit all backsplash. Apply silicone every 12 inches and press tight to the wall. Apply masking tape to countertop and backsplash. Leave a small space, approximately 1/16 inch, for silicone to adhere to the granite or quartz. Remove excess silicone with your finger, then carefully remove tape. Step 10. Attaching countertops to cabinets. Apply masking tape to cabinet where it meets the countertop. Lay a thin bead of silicone to secure the countertop to the cabinet. Fill any gaps left from shimming. And finally, you can remove the tape. For more information, visit us online at www.granitediy.com.